Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Mary, and this is Mindful Movement with Mary. For today's slow flow yoga practice, we're going to focus on balance. So balancing is a common part of yoga poses. We're often standing on one leg and doing different things. So I thought we would focus on what it takes to have good balance. And for human beings to balance, there are many complex systems set up in our bodies to do that. Three of the major ones are vision, so being able to see where we are in relationship to things around us. And then our inner ear system, which is the most complex, that involves little hairs and crystals and fluid, and it helps us orient in space when we move. So if you turn your head or come up or down, everything rebalances in the head and tells your nervous system where you are. And then finally, there's this sensory and motor input. So when we are walking, nerves in the feet tell us what the terrain is like, and then that sends signals back up to the brain to adjust if necessary. So we're going to work with these three things today and play with balance and some balancing poses, which are really fun. So for today's props, you're going to need 2 blocks, 1 blanket, and a chair and or massage ball. And I know a chair or a massage ball are very different things, but for today's purposes, we could use one or the other, and you'll see what I mean by that. So if you need to pause the video, gather your props, do so, and I'll meet you standing on your mat. So today we're actually going to begin taking a little walk around our space. So going for a nice slow walk. Maybe it's the first time you're moving your body around today, or maybe it's the end of your day and a nice gentle walk would feel good. So just taking a walk around, feeling the floor under your feet. And if you have your socks on, I would encourage you to take them off, especially for today's practice. We really want some sensory input coming in from the feet. And as you walk, start to slow the walk down and become aware of the fact that as you walk, it's just a series of small bounces. So as we take one step and then another step, there's this moment, however small, where we're on one leg. So balance is actually a very functional part of movement. It is necessary to be able to walk. Good. So coming back to the center of your mat, and just stand in mountain pose, so feet are hip distance parallel. And we're not going to go through a series of alignment checks here. We're just going to observe for this mountain pose. So drawing the attention into the feet. And without changing anything, just notice, where are you carrying most of your weight? Is it toward the back of the foot and the heel? Toward the front of the foot? The outer edges, the inner edges? Do you have a tendency to lock your knees when you're standing? Do you feel like you're shifted all the way to one side, or maybe one shoulder is kind of hiked up? Just notice. And then we'll start to roll down today. So we're going to tuck the chin to the chest and just roll the spine down, coming into a forward fold. And again, there's no need to change anything, no need to force it here. We're just observing. How far down do we go before we feel we need to stop? Before the backs of the legs stop us, or the back. And then slowly roll back up. Good. So now is the time we're going to use either the chair or the massage ball. And we're going to do that to massage our feet. So I have a chair here because I figured that most people would have a chair. So I'm going to sit on the chair. If you have a massage ball or a tennis ball, you're just going to put it under the feet and you're going to do some rolling. So you roll however you want. You're just massaging the bottoms of the feet. but I'm going to do that seated, just using my hands so that it's easier for those of us that don't have extra props. So just taking one foot into the hand and using your thumbs, you're going to make nice circles. So really dig in there. Give yourself a good foot massage. The ball of the foot, through the arch of the foot, and the heel. Don't neglect the heel. You might want to squeeze it a little bit in all the different directions. You may want to take your fingers, interlace them through the toes, however far in you can get, and then make a gentle circle with the foot. So you're kind of articulating all the long bones of the foot and the toe bones. They are designed to move. Good. So we're really only spending about a minute here, not a lot. And if you're rolling your feet, that is a beautiful option. And it means you're still standing and you're just rolling one foot. And then we'll switch sides. So coming to the other side. And again, using your thumbs, give yourself a nice foot massage. And the reason why we're doing this is because the nerve endings in the feet are so important for balance. They're giving us all the sensory input and we need to wake them up. Because when we wear shoes over the course of a day or a lifetime, the nerves in the feet tend to deaden a little bit. So we really want to wake them up, bring blood flow there, because that's going to help us balance. Good. Maybe you want to interlace the toes on this side. Nice. And it feels really good. Good. So not very long, just about a minute each side. And then if you're on the chair, you can move the chair out of the way. You don't need that. Or you can move your ball out of the way. Make sure it's somewhere where you're not going to trip over it. And come back to your mountain pose. And again, just observe. So even with that little bit of work, I notice a big difference in my feet. They feel a little warm. There's more blood flowing now. I feel like the weight is more evenly balanced between the front and the back. But that's just me. You may notice very different things. And we'll do that roll down check-in too. So tucking the chin to the chest and letting the arms hang down and rolling all the way down and seeing if there's any difference. Do you have a little bit more openness in the back of the legs or the back? Is it easier to come down further? Sometimes all it takes is just that little bit of work. And then rolling back up. Good. Good, good, good. All right. So taking it up further in the body, we started with the feet. Now we're going to move up to the ankles and the calf. So finding a blanket, and I have a nice thick yoga blanket here. And you're going to adjust the height based on what you need. And we've done this before. I think it's a great calf stretch. So you can roll up the blanket or towel, and you can control how high it is. Because you're going to place the heel down on the blanket, and the ball of the foot and the toes are going to be, the heel on the mat and the ball of the foot on the blanket. And both legs are straight. So we're starting to get a good calf stretch on the right leg. So keeping the right leg straight, keeping the shoulders, the ribcage, pelvis all stacked on top of each other. And if you want a little bit more intensity, you would roll the blanket up a little higher. Or if you still can't get enough height, you can always bring the opposite leg in front. And as you bring the weight in front and shift the 3 planes here of weight forward, you're going to get more stretch in the calf. So deep breath in, deep breath out. So this is a powerful stretch for the calf. And we want to start stretching around the ankle because the ankle actually has a lot of sensory nerve endings relating to balance specifically, because as you move on different terrain, of course, the ankle position changes. So we're just going to mobilize through that area. Good. One more deep breath in and out. Good. And coming back, doing the other side. So now left heel on the mat and ball the foot toes on the blanket. Legs are straight. Good. And if you need that extra intensity, stepping the opposite foot forward. But listen to your body. If you're already getting a good calf stretch right where you are, don't change it. This might feel really good if you've been doing a lot of walking or hiking or biking now that it's nice outside. Yeah, now I start to feel all these different fibers stretch through the calf. It's almost like all the cellophane that's been wrapped around all these muscles starts to uncrinkle and stretch. Good. And coming back to center. All right. We're going to do another stretch for the top of the foot this time. So taking the right foot back behind you, the toes are tucked under. And now you feel a stretch up the front of the ankle, maybe up through the shin as well. Keeping both legs straight. Keeping the ribcage stacked over the pelvis. Try not to let the ribcage slide forward over the hips because then you lose some of the stretch. Good. And release. And coming to the other side. Left toes back, tucked under, ribcage stacked over hips. Stand up tall, deep breath in, deep breath out. Good. And release. Ah, yes, a lot more moving now. This is good. All right. So let's inhale, sweep the arms overhead, reach up, look up. Exhale, sit the hips back into chair pose. So all I did was sit the hips back as if I was coming into a chair. And then inhale, press into the feet, reach up. Exhale, sit back into your chair, and this time let the arms swing back behind you. Inhale, reach up, look up. Little mini back bend here. Exhale, sweep the hands down, sit back in the chair. A couple more times. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, sit back, arms back. One more time. Inhale up. Exhale, sit back in your chair, arms back. And then inhale up. And exhale the hands to heart center. Good. All right, so find a block. And if you don't have a block, a stack of books, or even a roll of toilet paper would work well here. We're going to place the block high up between the thighs, as high as you can go. And we're going to come back into that chair pose. So sitting back now with the block between the thighs. And it feels a little bit different. It helps us align the hips. And then inhale, stand up. Bring the hands to heart center. Bend the knees a little bit. And now inhale, come up to your tippy toes. So you've lifted the heels off the ground. So this is our first balance challenge of the day. We've taken a point of contact off the earth, so we're on the tippy toes. And you could stay here if this is challenging, or you could start to bend the knees, keeping the heels lifted, and sit back into your chair. And then keep the heels lifted, stand up. Inhale at the top. Exhale, release the heels back down. Let's try that again. Inhale, lift the heels. Exhale, start to bend the knees, sit the hips back, coming into your chair pose. You're going to feel some shaking in the ankles, and that's okay. We want to wake them up. We want to strengthen these muscles here. Good, and then coming up and lowering the heels. Good, we'll do it one more time. Inhale, lift the heels. Exhale, sitting back. Keeping the heels lifted, sit down as low as you can. And inhale, back up. And exhale, release the heels. Good job. All right, so we're going to do one more exploration of movement before we move into more of a flow. So this move comes to us from Katie Bowman. She's an amazing biomechanist out of Washington State. And this is called a pelvic list. So you have your pelvis here, and imagine that your pelvis is a boat in the water, and it's going to list from side to side. So placing the hands on the hips, feet are hip distance and parallel. This is a very subtle movement, so you might want to watch first or just listen carefully as you try to do this. I'm going to root down heavily into the right leg and start to shift my body weight over the right leg. As I press that right leg into the floor, so really think about pressing into the floor and standing up tall, the left leg naturally floats off the floor just a little bit. So I've shifted the weight over to this leg, and what has to happen here is that the outer hip has to work to hold me up, and this is a really important part of balancing, especially in yoga, and balancing on one foot, and come on back. So we'll try that again. Pushing down really heavily into the right leg, really, really heavily, as if you're just thinking about, I'm pushing this foot all the way deep into the earth, and feel how that naturally floats the left leg. All right, we'll try it on the other side. Deeply push that left leg all the way into the earth, rooting down, rooting down, rooting down, pushing it hard against the earth, and then the other leg floats up. Now, it would be easy for me to cheat here and use the low back to hike the hip up, but I don't want to do that. I really want to work the outer hip. So thinking about stabilizing through the outer hip as I press the floor away, that's where I'll start to get this muscle fire up. These are outer hip muscles, the abductors of the hip. They're very important for balance. So switch back and forth a few times. You can keep the hands in the pelvis here to feel the little boat listing side to side. And it's challenging to isolate this move because it's subtle, but it's these little adjustments that are what keeps us balanced. Good. And you could do a couple on each side. You could list up and down. Again, try not to let your low back hike the hip. More think about pressing the foot into the floor. Good. And come on back. All right. So standing at the top of your mat, feet are hip distance parallel. Inhale, raise the arms overhead. Exhale, hinge and fold. Release the head. And then planting the hands, walking the feet back, coming into your downward facing dog. And take a moment here, pedal the feet. And you may notice this, since we did the calf stretching and all that work through the feet, that it's easier for you to get one heel down and then the other heel, maybe the backs of the legs are a little bit more open. But don't worry so much about getting the heels down. Think about length in the spine. Keep pressing the floor away, lifting out of the wrists and out of the shoulders. Good, and then lowering the knees down, coming into all fours, your tabletop position. We'll do a few rounds of cat and cow with your breath rhythm. Inhaling, lowering the belly, raising the head and the tail. And exhale, rounding through the spine. Push the floor away as you drop the head. Good, so go back and forth with your pace. Beautiful, and then coming back to a neutral spine in your tabletop position. We'll practice spinal balance like we did last week, but because it has the word balance in it, we had to do it again this week. So inhale, send the right leg back behind you, and exhale, float that back leg up till it's parallel with the floor. And you could stay here today, or you could work on floating the opposite arm up, so that would be the left hand for me. And so here, we're gonna just hold and think about how this takes balance, because we only have 2 points, or maybe 3, depending on where you are, 3 points of contact. And direct the gaze down, and feel how as you direct the gaze down, that helps you stabilize in this pose. And then look side to side. So maybe you look over one shoulder and feel how there's a moment where it's harder to balance. And then look over the other shoulder, because we've just changed the position of the head. And so the other systems have to work a little bit harder to keep us balanced. Good, and lower back down. Take a break, shake out the wrists. I know that's a lot of pressure. And come on back. Extending the left leg out behind you now, floating it up till it's parallel with the floor. And if you want to add on opposite arm, the right arm floats up. And playing here in this balancing pose, reaching in opposite directions. And then playing with the gaze, looking to the side. Oh yeah, there is that moment where it's a little bit less stable as you move the head. Interesting. Good, and placing the hand back down, placing the foot back down, big toes together, knees apart. Sit back and rest in child's pose. Feel the breath, stretching the skin of the back. And then coming back to all fours, we have one more thing to do here. So you're going to find a block or a book or whatever your block substitute is today. And you're going to place the block on a high end, pretty high, under one hand, and both arms are going to be straight. So you're going to feel really lopsided because you're way off balance here, and that's okay. So I have one hand, I'm going to have the right hand under the block. Then I'm going to inhale and lift the right knee up to the side here. So I'm like the little doggy at the fire hydrant. It's a very charming image, but it works. And I'm only going to lift the knee as high as I can keep the pelvis, both hip points pointing down. So it's not going to be very high at first. And in order to get the hip higher and the knee higher, I have to activate the opposite hip. So I'm going to draw my attention to the left outer hip. And I'm going to press the left outer hip toward the right knee. So across, and as I push it across, then I can lift higher through the left leg. And I'm now twisted to the side a little bit here. And the hips are more stacked. But instead of thinking about stacking the right hip on top of the left, I'm thinking about the left hip coming underneath to support the right. And then inhale, extend that right leg straight back. Exhale, point the toes and the hip toward the floor. Bring the knee back to the starting position. So we'll do that a couple of times. Inhale, reach the knee up to the side. Exhale, push the hip underneath the other hip. Extend through the foot and heel. And then point the toes toward the floor. Bring the knee back to center. One more time. Inhale, lift the knee to the side. Exhale, push the hip underneath. Inhale, reach the foot back. Exhale, point the knee down and the foot down and bring it back. We're going to do one more actually. I want to really fatigue the left outer hip. So inhale, reaching the right hip up. Exhale, push that hip underneath the right hip. And then extend the right leg. Point the toes to the floor. Come back to center. Good. So you should start to feel a little activation through the outer hip, which is what we want. We'll switch sides. So now the block is going to be underneath the left hand. Keep both arms straight. Inhale, lifting the left leg now up to the side. Knee is bent, foot is flexed. And then thinking about pressing this right outer hip underneath the left hip to turn me to the side more. And then extend the leg back out to the side. Inhale, rotate down, so both the hip point and the toes point down, and then bringing the knee back to center. Inhale, lift the left knee. Exhale, push the right hip underneath. Inhale, stretch the foot back. Exhale, point the leg down and bring the knee down. One more time, inhaling, lift the knee to the side. And then tucking the hip underneath, straightening the leg, turning the hip point down, coming back to center. It is complicated, so if you have to pause and rewatch, that's fine. It is a weird little move, but you'll see how we're going to use it later. Pointing the hip down and coming back to center. Excellent work. All right, placing your block to the side and tuck the toes under. Come up to downward facing dog. Stretch out the legs and hips a little bit. So I already feel like my outer hips are like, oh, okay, I'm awake now. That's good. That's what I want. Good. And walking the feet to the hands. Forward fold. And then we're actually going to come all the way down to seated. So coming down to seated on the mat. Bring the soles of the feet together, knees wide apart. And I'm going to bring the hands behind me, fingertips pointing away, and press my hands into the floor, open through the inner thigh. So just pausing for a moment or two here. Ardha Chandrasana. This is a bound angle pose to open the inner groin. And then extending the legs straight out to the sides. Keep the hands behind you, pressing into the floor, and that helps to elongate the sides of the waist. It also helps to keep us from rounding in the lower back so we can keep the hips neutral and the back straight. So just take a few rounds of breath here. This is a powerful stretch for the inner thigh. And then bring the feet in a little bit. So they're not all the way in, but they're not as wide as they were a moment ago. And we're just going to become aware of this action in the hip called internal and external rotation. So if you point the toes toward each other, feel how that whole leg rotates in. And that's internal rotation of the leg, of the thigh specifically. And then pointing the toes away from each other, that's external rotation. So I've externally rotated the femur in the hip socket. So go back and forth here a couple times, playing with internal rotation, internal rotation, and external rotation. Feel if you get stuck anywhere, if you notice a difference side to side. We often have one that's it's easier to externally or internally rotate. Good. And bringing the legs back together. We're going to come back to all fours. And lift the hips up to downward facing dog. All right, walking the feet to the hands in your forward fold. Inhale, sweep all the way up, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. All right, so let's tie everything together in a little flow. So inhale, raising the arms overhead. Exhale, hinge and fold. Start to shift your weight into the left foot. Take a big step back with the right, coming into high lunge. Just pause here for a moment. Inhaling, reaching the heart forward. The spine is long. And then look back at your back foot. Start to pivot in the back foot. We're going to windmill the arms up into warrior two. So adjust your feet when you get here, making sure that the front heel intersects with the arch of the back foot. And here you are in warrior two. Draw the attention to the thighs. So the front thigh is externally rotating. You want to feel it moving in that twisted external pose in relationship to the pelvis. But the back leg is actually neutral or a little bit internally rotated. So if you want to angle the toes in, that's always fine in warrior two. And settling down, bending deeply into the front knee, making sure it tracks over the middle toe. Good. And then we'll flow here a little bit. So inhale, reverse your warrior, taking the bend out of the front leg, reaching back. And then inhale, come into side angle. Front forearm bends and is resting on the front thigh. Back arm overhead. Side angle. Good, we'll do that a couple times. Inhaling, reaching back, straightening the front leg. Exhale, side angle. One more time, inhaling, reaching up. Feeling the stretch across the front ribs. And then exhaling, side angle. Sorry. Press into the outer edge of the back foot. And feel how there's a line of energy from that back foot all the way to the fingertips overhead. Good. Now, I should have warned you, but have a block close to one hand, and you want it about a foot in front of the pinky side edge of the foot. Good. So take a look back down at that block and that foot. Bring the top hand to the waist. And you're going to start to hop the back foot up a foot or two. Reach down for your block and start to play with lifting the back leg off. The chest is still pointing down. So I'm just doing a little test here, lifting the back leg up and down, and then I'm going to float the back leg up. And then here's that part where we tuck the left hip underneath the right. So I'm pushing the left hip toward the right, and that opens me up to the side, and here I am in Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. It's a balancing pose, which is a beautiful balancing pose. Reach energy out through the foot that's floating. And you should feel like an Olympic figure skater as they kind of cruise around the ice like this. Good job. And then hand to hip, step back. Whew, warrior two. Good work. So Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. It's my favorite balancing pose, but it definitely is challenging. Good. And then pivot on the back foot, crescent warrior, so back heel is lifted. Both toes point forward, and then step the back foot up. Good. All right, so we're going to do the other side. Inhale, reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hinge and fold. Start to shift your weight into the right foot. Take a big step back with the left. High lunge. Elongate the spine, look forward. Then look back at the back foot. Start to pivot on the foot so you can lower the heel and windmill the arms up to your warrior two. And then make any adjustments you need to with the feet. Good. Warrior two. Externally rotating the front thigh. And then a neutral or slightly internally rotated back leg. Good. Bending deeply into the front knee, and let's flow here. Inhale, take the bend out of the leg, reach back, reverse warrior. And exhale, side angle. Keep rooting into the outer edge of the back foot. Inhale, reverse. Reach up and back. Exhale, forearm to thigh, side angle. Inhale, reach up and back. And exhale, side angle. One more time. Inhale, reach up and back. And exhale, side angle. Good. So take a look down at that front foot. Place the block where you want it at any height. You can also do this against a wall. So if you need to have your back against a wall for stability, that's a beautiful option, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we're playing with balance today, so see if you can do this. So hopping the back foot up a few feet, starting to reach down for your block, and then play here. Play with lifting the back leg up. When you've lifted the back leg up as high as you want it today, think about pressing the right hip toward the left to come underneath the left. So you're stacking the hips now as you turn and open to the left. Good. Try to feel the freedom in this balance. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And then step the leg all the way back. Woo! Warrior two. Good. Pivoting on the back foot, both toes face forward, heels lifted, and step the back foot up, hands to heart center. Beautiful job. So, because this is our balancing class, I thought we'd do one more balance today, and this will feel so easy compared to half moon. We're going to try tree pose. So here's where we need to think about that outer hip supporting us even more. So shifting the weight into the right foot, and do that pelvic lift where you press down into the floor, and that helps you float the left leg up. So the left leg could be just on the floor stairs, a little kickstand here. You could have the foot toward the calf, or you can have the foot all the way up to the inner thigh. Just don't place it on the knee joint. That would be not comfortable for the knee. And press the foot into the thigh and the thigh into the foot or into the calf or wherever you have the foot, bringing the hands to the heart center today. So feel how the outer hip has to work here. We're externally rotating this bent knee side. So we have all these elements. And then here we'll play with those other parts of balancing. Can you look up? Woo! Let's see how that changes everything. Can you look down? That's a lot more grounding. Can you gaze over one shoulder and the other shoulder? And for the real challenge, can you close your eyes? Ooh. Yeah, so as soon as you take away one of those elements of balance, you may need to fall out, and that's totally okay. We're challenging balance. We're bringing it to the edge here, and then we're making it stronger. Good, so let's do the other side. Shifting the weight strongly into your left leg, pressing the foot down so much that that right leg starts to float up. And then having the foot wherever it's comfortable. If you want to do it against the shin and the calf here, or all the way up. And it does help to have kind of grippy pants, otherwise you can slide down. But really think about pressing the foot into the thigh and the thigh into the foot. And then you have all those same options with the gaze. Do you want to play with looking up, or down, side to side? Don't worry if you fall out. Your mat's here to catch you. And maybe you close the eyes. Good. And release. Beautiful, beautiful work. All right, standing at the top of the mat one last time. Inhale, raise the arms overhead. Exhale, hinge and fold. And then coming all the way down to your mat, we're going to sit down on the mat in staff pose. The legs are straight out in front of us. Rooting into the sitting bones, the backs of the legs and the heels. Sit up as tall as you can, reaching the crown of the head toward the ceiling. And I'm going to bend the right knee now and place the right foot to the outside, or you can keep it inside, but to the outside if it's available, of the left knee. Inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, wrap the left arm around and start to twist open to the right. So I'm twisting toward the bent knee. And as I just twist toward that bent knee and hug the leg in, I'm going to feel a stretch through the outer right hip. So all that work we did to strengthen that area today, let's let it all go and let it stretch. And as you inhale, each inhale draws the crown of the head higher toward the ceiling. And as you exhale, you ease into the twist a little bit deeper. Good, and coming back to center. Unwind the legs. You want to shake it out a little bit. We'll do the other side, bending the left knee, placing the foot to the outside of the right knee. Inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, start to wrap the right arm around and twist toward the left, toward the bent leg. The opposite hand can be behind you in a little kickstand just to balance. Inhale, reaching the crown of the head up. Exhale, twist. And release. Coming back to center, maybe shaking the legs out one more time. And as you come down, you might want to have a block close by to one hand. So coming all the way down to your back. Drawing the knees into the chest. Rock side to side across the spine. And you may want to reach the feet up, hold the inside edges of the feet, bend the knees and draw them down toward the armpits, coming into happy baby. And here you can rock side to side a little bit. And then placing the feet back down. I'm going to lift my hips up enough just to slide the block underneath my sacrum, that big flat bone at the base of the spine. And you could stay here in a supported bridge, or you could float the legs up today. So we did a lot of work for the feet and the legs. It takes a lot to stabilize through all those little muscles of the ankles and shins and calf. So this is a nice release just to have the legs up. And if you have your chair, you could always put the legs on a chair. So no block, but just put your calves on the chair. Or you could do legs up the wall, having the hips face the wall and have the legs up. Just anything we can do to get the blood and lymph to drain back down. It's very soothing for the body. Maybe you want to make some gentle circles with the ankles. Gently placing the feet down on the floor if you've had them up in the air, or if you want to stay in legs up the wall or legs on the chair, that's fine. And removing the block, lovingly place the spine back down on the floor. You can straighten your legs and come into your Shavasana today. So if you like to have something under the knees, feel free to make any adjustments you need. As you settle the body on the earth, keep making any little adjustments you need to be even more comfortable now. So become aware of all the parts of your body that are in contact with the floor, or the chair, or the wall. Feel that stable surface grounding you. And then drawing the attention to the right side of the body. Feel the whole right side of the body. Awareness of the right shoulder and arm, torso, hip, leg, and foot. And then bring awareness to the left side of the body, the whole left side, left shoulder and arm, torso and hip, left thigh, lower leg and foot. And then bringing the attention back to the right side. Can you soften the right side of the body more than the left? Soften the right side of the body more than the left. And then drawing your attention to the left side, whole left side of the body. Can you soften the left side of the body more than the right? Whole left side of the body is heavy and soft. And then both sides of the body equally. Can you feel balanced? Can your awareness spread equally through the left and the right? Can the whole body feel heavy and soft? Take a few moments now just to rest. Just to rest your body on the earth. If you have time today to stay here longer, I encourage you to do so. What if you want to close practice with me today? Start to wiggle fingers and toes. And draw deeper breaths in and out. When you are ready, bending your knees and rolling to one side. Pausing there for a moment of gratitude. Be thankful for your body and everything that you could do. I'm thankful for this virtual community of friends in which we practice. And for someone else you're grateful to have in your life. Use your hands to press yourself up to a seated position, bringing the hands to heart center in prayer. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. And if you are enjoying my work and these classes, please consider supporting my work. All the information is in the description below. And while you're at it, subscribe to this channel. Until next week, my friends, namaste.